What is the scariest encounter with a stranger you've ever had? As my fiancée Jane and I were driving back home from a road trip, I noticed what looked like an animal that had been hit on the side of the road. I stopped when I got close to the animal. She knew what I was going to do, so she got out of the car as I popped the trunk to get a blunt object out of the trunk. I could see her slowly approaching the poor animal as I peeked around the back and pulled out a tire iron. As I closed the trunk and came around the side of the car, I suddenly heard her gasp and run back toward the side of the car with her hands cupped over her mouth. James. That's not an animal. Just as I was passing her and could see just how visibly shaken she was. What are you talking about? I asked. I slowly approached the said animal and I came to a dead stop in my steps to what I was looking at, and I was utterly speechless. I took one step forward as I leaned in and could see this thing had human-like fingers that turned into a skinny form of some kind of canine leg. It laid on its side and could see what looked like the body of a dog. The hind leg stretched out from the back as if it was dragging itself on the road, followed by a trail of its own blood. I began to examine it at a slight distance. I put my foot on it, and that's when it started to move and it turned its head outward. This creature or thing had the head of a woman. The face was heavily deformed and looked as if it was in the middle of some kind of transformation. The other front leg of it had a fully grown hand of a human, and that's when it turned its focus towards me, opening its eye, which had hair growing around the eyelids but the nose and mouth of a woman. It began to cough a weak cough, and I swear it started to smile even as I started to back away. The teeth of it was also very much human-like. I noticed the long hair coming off from the back of its head and could see it started to drag itself across the road, even as it gasped for air. My wife Mandy began tugging at my arm and took me back to the driver's side door as she went around and got into the passenger side. I turned on the car and shined the lights right on it, and we sat there watching this thing drag itself into the bushes. We were so much in shock that I almost had forgotten I was in the driver's seat and had to snap myself out of it, and we drove off. For nearly 2 miles we never said a word to each other. Mandy just sobbed and couldn't believe what we seen, and I was pretty much in denial myself.